Welcome everyone to another episode of the Ableton Music Producer Podcast. This is Dan Giffin. Today I'm super stoked to have Brian Funk on the podcast. First of all, let's just all acknowledge that's the coolest name ever, Mr. Funk. But he's an Ableton certified trainer, and he and I are going to talk today for a very long episode about a ton of the new features in Ableton Live 11 that is coming very soon. We've been beta testing it the past few months, and we're going to share a lot of our favorite workflows and new features. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Brian's a great guy. He's released a lot of different packs and samples and effects and instruments that he's created in Ableton Live. He also hosts the Music Production Podcast, which I was on a while ago. So make sure you give him a follow. Go to brianfunk.com to learn more. BRIAN Funk, FUNK.com, and go give Brian some love. If you've been thinking about purchasing Ableton Live 10, Suite, Standard, whatever, you will also get the upgrade to 11 for free right now if you purchase 10, just as a heads up. And if you're interested, then go to liveproducersonline.com/buyableton, and I would be glad to hook you up with the latest version of Live for a discount. Save that piggy bank. Check it out, liveproducersonline.com/buyableton. Also, before we get into today's podcast, I want to give a big shout out to my friends at Melodics for supporting the podcast and this episode. They are an amazing company. I'm actually going to have somebody from the company on this podcast very soon to talk more about some of the cool things they're doing right now with music education and how they're helping a lot of producers step up their skills, whether it's playing on a MIDI keyboard or finger drumming or playing an electronic drum kit. It's a great way to practice your scales, to grow your skills in a lot of areas of playing your instrument, and they make it really fun. So gamifying the process, it's a desktop app you can download and plug in your controller and just practice with a bunch of lessons, different types of games, different types of genres to try to help you become a better player. It's pretty cool. Check it out. Go to melodics.com. Try the free trial. If you decide to subscribe and have access to a lot more content, then use the discount code LPO-20. LPO-20 stands for Live Producers Online, and they will hook you up, save 20% because we love to save that money. And before we jump into today's episode, we actually did a live screen recording of us talking about Ableton Live's new features. So you can check that out on the YouTube channel. Go to Live Producers Online. You'll see the little logo thing. Subscribe, like. Also, if you want to join the email list, I'll let you know when new episodes come out and upcoming workshops, webinars, new updates with Live, and other cool things. So that's at liveproducersonline.com/newsletter. Thanks for listening, everybody. You're all awesome. And here's today's episode with Mr. Brian Funk. Today's episode is all about Live 11, right?
Yes. It's exciting times for us live users.
It really is exciting times, man. We're here to spread the good gospel of Ableton Live 11, which is coming very soon. Hasn't been officially announced yet.
Are you working in Live 11, like pretty much exclusively now?
Yeah, I took a leap of faith, man. Even though it's being beta tested, I've been producing, and the newest track I'm going to release, Asphilia, is going to be from Live 11, actually. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is really fun. What about you?
Yeah, like for my own stuff, I'm pretty much all in Live 11, but for like downloadable stuff and packs, I'm going to stick on 10 for a bit.
Okay.
You know, just to give people some time, you know. I feel bad moving forward and leaving people behind, you know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you lose compatibility completely.
This is true. This is true.
Even if it's a device that's in both.
Yep. Yep.
But,
how many times do you have like students or anybody send you a project and it's like, just kidding, it's in standard, or it's, you know, in 9 or something, and and then you try to send the project back and they're like mad at you. Sorry. Yeah, well, today we're going to basically just go through and talk about a lot of the new Live 11 features. Obviously, we would be here for days if we went through every single change. But I'm going to share a lot of my favorites. You're going to share a lot of your favorites. And yeah, what would you say, Brian, to people that were like, is it worth upgrading from 10 Suite?
Is it worth upgrading? Well, I always kind of like to say, if you've got a laptop if you've got an iPhone, even, you know, an iPad, like you've got a really serious studio. You're capable of making great music.
Yeah.
Don't fool yourself into thinking that this next thing is gonna be the one that makes your hits for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've fallen for that 100,000 times already, and still my number one hits are still inside. You know.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you'll be fine with if you don't, but it is a significant upgrade, and it's really fun, and it's made my life a lot easier and opened up a lot of new doors. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say if you can, yeah, totally go for it. It's great. I mean, as we'll get into, there's so many cool new features, and there's a lot of things that just makes it easier, you know, like where the computer isn't in your way as much.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
I appreciate that stuff a lot, where I can just work smoother. So for that, it's great, but it's not the magic serum. You know,
Yeah.
nothing is.
Did you say magic serum?
Yeah, I didn't mean the
It's not
pun.
serum. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I'm
do
not-
love serum, though. I will say that.
Yeah, it's not gonna like make the hits for you. Like the at the end of the day, it's all about like the work you put in, and just keep showing up. And the software, whether you use Live 9, 10, 11, or even like some other software,
Yeah.
it doesn't that's not the defining factor.
Yeah.
So, I am super enthusiastic about 11, but I always like to kind of just temper that a little bit, because I don't want to make you feel like you can't do it without 11. You
Right.
can't do it without this toy, that synth, that plugin.
Right. No, I think
People
that's
make
definitely
great
universally true. I 100% agree. There's so many different ways to make music. You can kind of get lost in that sauce of having to have the shiniest new plug-in toy. You know, there's
Yeah.
always that, and I've gotten lost in that too at times for sure. But there are so many updates that surprised me. I mean, we're gonna go through a lot of them. I say we just like kind of jump into it now.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
It's
So, first of all, if you wanted to upgrade, if you were to purchase Ableton Live 10 Suite or Standard or Intro, you'll get, from the time this episode's released, you're going to get an automatic upgrade of the equivalent version in Live 11. So if you wanted to purchase that, right now if you go to Ableton's website, it's 20% off. They actually have a subscription plan now, which is kind of cool. For 10 Suite right now, soon to be 11, it's running at like $600, but you could pay $100 a month for like 6 months, which is kind of cool. And you aren't a reseller, are you, Brian? Should have asked you that before we hit record.
No.
No. Well, I am. So if anybody wants a better discount than that, feel free to hit me up, liveproducersonline.com/buy Ableton. Shameless plug.
No,
But-
do it. I mean, that stuff's great, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't be ashamed of that at all if I were you. Like, people get a discount, and it helps you out. You know.
Yeah.
That's like what you have to think about in this world we're in today. I mean, especially lately, right? The last year and change, like with artists suffering so much and things
Yeah.
changing so much.
Yeah.
You really, like, we had a big election in America, right? But like, I still think like your biggest vote is with your dollar. So the things you
Yeah.
decide to pay for,
Yeah.
you're voting for more of that. And there are ways to support people, artists, and you know, whoever it is, by using like their affiliate links, or if they are resellers like you are. Like, it's a win-win. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Honestly,
I think it's
saving money is a good thing for everyone, really. And if you invested
Yeah.
in Bitcoin a couple years ago, we know you can afford Live 11. So, but anyway, cool. So let's start with the preferences. There's a lot of new updates. We're going to kind of go through by category. We're going to start off talking a little bit more about the preferences, Live's browser, interface updates, new features, workflows, and then we'll move into some other things like MIDI, MPE, audio effects, MIDI effects. But let's start with some of the new things and preferences, or some of the browser layout, Brian. Like, what do you have to talk about?
Well, it seems like the colors are kind of fun, you know.
Yeah.
Like some of the different skins are nice. They're a little bit easier on the eyes. I know they've done like some things for people that are colorblind,
which I am,
to me.
actually.
Are you really?
Yeah, I am. So I was real happy. I kind of felt really special because I know I've said stuff to Thomas Faulds and Matt West, some other brand managers inside the Ableton company. So like when this update came out, I like to think that I was part of that. And even though I probably wasn't, it just makes me feel good to say that because I was always talking on webinars. It's like I can only see half these colors, but it's crazy. Like the new colors, yeah, there's a setting in preferences. You can reduce automatic colors, which makes them stand out. So that's always fun. That's a cool little
And that
update.
helps for you personally?
Yeah, yeah, it really does a
Yeah.
little bit. I notice
Nice.
a little difference.
Oh, that's great. That's one thing I've always loved about Ableton as a company. They do listen,
No, they do. Yeah, the
and
user
they
feedback
pay
is
attention.
huge. Yeah.
I was a Logic user beforehand, and I was doing most of my learning on YouTube, and I kept coming across Ableton Live stuff, and that's the community is really what pulled me in, and
Yeah.
the way they have built the community and the way that they listen. So
Yeah.
I'm sure, and Thomas too. I'm sure like you say that I'm sure he's writing that down.
Yeah. Thanks, Thomas. Shout out to Thomas. He's great. And
Yeah.
Matt. But yeah, so another thing in the preferences, grid line opacity. So inside I'm going to share my screen now. Anybody listening to this on Spotify or Apple or wherever else, this video will also be on YouTube. So you can kind of follow along a little bit, but you don't have to. The grid line opacity in the preferences is cool because you can really make it stand out a little bit more, depending on like your screen or if you have a hard time seeing. So you can really play with this, and you can see in the background right now, you can pretty much make it almost disappear, but it just defines the grid a little bit easier to see. It's just like the little things that matter sometimes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, that's a nice little thing that doesn't make the literature for the new version of. It's not the main feature, but it's a really helpful thing on your everyday.
For sure. Yeah, they have a couple new themes as well, which is kind of nice. They've got like the Live 10 themes in there as well. And then still inside the preferences, if you go into the link tempo MIDI tab, I think we've got some conversations here for sure. Do you want to talk about tempo follower, Brian?
Sure, yeah.
That's a huge one. So anybody performing live, that's a game changer for me personally. But yeah, I know you use it too.
Right. I'm using it in kind of a funny way. I haven't had the chance to work with other people. So just to explain the function, the tempo follower, you can have Live listen to an audio input, like a microphone, say, on a drum kit, and it will adjust the tempo to what it's hearing. So it's going to guess kind of based on what you're playing, what the tempo is, and it will change throughout as you play. So the idea is that if you've got like a live set with some clips and scenes you want to launch, you can have, say, your drummer, for instance, play the beat, and Live is just going to like follow along so that when you launch your clips or you play like arpeggiated lines, everything will be in sync with the drummer. So normally you have to follow the click. Now the click follows you.
Yeah.
Which is,
it's pretty
really
wild.
Insane.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're there.
I know. It works too. It really works. It really does. I basically found a street drummer video on YouTube, and I routed the audio from that YouTube into an input into Live, and had a bunch of MIDI clips and audio clips playing in arrangement view. And then
cool.
it actually followed pretty well. And kind of locked itself in. Or I'm sorry, session view. It was in session view. But yeah, everything just kind of started grooving with the street drummer's audio that was playing in that YouTube video. It was wild. It was very smooth. It didn't jump around a lot or skip.
Have you had a chance? I know you've been playing shows with your band, Philia.
Yeah.
Shameless promotion.
More shameless promotion for Dan.
No, but you've been playing live. Have you used that at all? Have you tried it out?
I haven't used it yet. I haven't used it yet, and I probably could, but for me personally, if I'm going to play a live show and we have, a decent audience watching, I'm just like always really concerned about like stability. So probably going to wait to really try that live. We really haven't practiced with it a lot yet either, to be honest, but definitely could see myself using it in a live scenario because I play drums, so I think that would make good sense. And then I have a saxophonist and keyboardist, and we can all just jam to backing tracks, which is what we normally do. But yeah, for the actual release, test that, make sure it's definitely stable, and probably do it. Yeah.
Well, maybe that brings a point we should make. Like, right now we're talking about a beta version of the software. So
Right.
if you are doing a live performance, you might think twice about getting up there with something that's still being worked on. I
Yeah.
found Live 11 to be super stable,
It has been.
but I have had crashes.
Yes, I've had
You know,
those too. It's yeah, there's
so,
little things here and there, and they're still working out bugs like every beta software ever does. So,
mhm.
but yeah, definitely the tempo. So once you set the input channel for anybody watching this video right now, so I could just say, okay, input 1 is going to be the channel that I want Live's tempo to follow, and then I would you can choose show, toggle, or hide, and then up here in the top left corner next to link you have a new follow button that can activate that, and then you just need to arm an audio track and basically just start playing or play a beat, rap, whatever. It works great. So yeah, definitely big ups to Ableton for follow. It's huge.
It looks like you might have changed your BPM quickly there.
I did, yeah.
Yeah,
So when
like maybe your speech
it is,
was
yeah, it's because I'm talking
yeah.
right now, and I had that input. So yeah, that was interesting.
So I've been using it in a funny way, not really the way it's intended necessarily, but so as a guitar player, I pick up my guitar and I just play. I'm not like thinking BPMs. I don't usually put a metronome on. You play your guitar and you just feel it. So I will put a mic up to my guitar and just play, and Live will like the tempo will change to what I'm doing, and then I get a sense of like, oh, okay, I'm playing at like 135. And
Yeah.
then I'll set the tempo, and then it feels natural.
Yeah.
Compared to the old way where I'd set the metronome and then play along and like try to see if that felt right, only to find out like 10 minutes later
Yeah.
like I was too fast or slow.
It's kind of like capture without recording in that sense, because Ableton Live's capture features for MIDI. So if you were to play, and I do the same thing. Like when capture came out, I was real excited for the same reason, because I'm a drummer. So I would play on my push 2, I'd finger drum a beat, and then I'd hit capture, and it would lock in that tempo. So yeah, same thing.
Well, that's the beauty of capture in my mind too, is like you don't have to think about tempo and BPM. You just play. Even it works really pretty well if you're playing anything that has some sort of percussion to it.
Sure. Yeah.
And I because when your ideas are new and you're just starting and you're excited, sometimes like just fooling with the metronome sucks that out of it.
Yep.
And now like
true.
I don't really think about it anymore.
No, that's
So
true.
I'm
Yeah.
thrilled with that.
Yeah, I mean, and one thing I've always learned, like as a producer, and you know this, is like the faster you can produce, the more fun a lot of times it is, because you're not just stuck on this one thing. You don't feel like you have to get over a hump to keep moving forward while creating. It's just like boom, it's there. But yeah, so we talked about
And
the.
that's like one of those things I'm talking about. We have Zoom lag.
Oh yeah.
But that's one of the things I'm talking about where it's just speeding things up and making life a little easier. And the technicality of figuring out my precise BPM is not the fun part for me.
Ain't nobody got
So I
time
don't
for
even worry
that.
about it.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, we talked about tempo, follower. That's a huge one. Do you want to talk about the other elephant in the room that everybody knows or should know is MPE? Since we're talking about the preferences section in Ableton,
Yeah,
do you want to explain MPE?
But as best I can. Like I don't have a ton of experience with it because I don't really have a great MPE controller.
Yeah.
I do have the Sensible Morph, which I haven't busted out for this, and I feel kind of sad for me and the world that I haven't done that yet. But because that is MPE and it's a super cool controller.
Nice.
But basically, it allows you to send like it makes things more expressive. You can do instead of pitch bend, for instance, affecting all of the notes at once, it'll affect like one note at a time. And Aftertouch has the polyphonic aftertouch. So it stands for MIDI polyphonic expression, MPE, MIDI polyphonic expression. So things like you can pitch bends, you can bend like one note while you hold the other notes down and they stay constant. On push with the polyphonic aftertouch, so the way I've been using this is, and this is really exciting too, the Prophet 6 just came out with an update that now understands MPE,
That's
and
cool.
you can map aftertouch and like to different parameters, and you can be holding down like low notes in a chord, and then with the
Nice.
pressure on push, you can kind of do vibrato and things on the
Yeah.
higher notes and
Yeah.
modulations, and it's surprising how much of a difference that makes.
Yeah.
It,
It
it
does.
just everything comes to life. There's more movement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when MIDI 2.0 comes out, I'm curious to see how far that's going to expand, because that's a
Hmm.
whole new world of MIDI languages and protocols that are being made to make MIDI instruments more expressive in so many ways. MPE, I think, is really just the start for like the new tech that's coming in that world. It's very exciting. So yeah, MPE, you can find that in the link Tempo MIDI tab in the preferences if you're looking at the screen. And then you can see all these different inputs I have, like my Arturia Keylab MIDI keyboard. You just enable that input right here, and then I could just play that keyboard. Pretty much, I mean, most controllers that have aftertouch, you could really take advantage, I think, of MPE, right? So, but even for Serum, for example, you mentioned Serum earlier. I actually have that plugin in here. But you can right-click on the plugin and choose Enable MPE mode. And then also even Ableton Live's simpler and sampler instruments have that enabled in them.
Yeah, Wavetable has it. In those
Wavetable,
functions, yeah.
yes, thank you. Wavetable's amazing. Yeah, it's already just built in there. You don't even have to right-click on it, so it's nice. But yeah,
And you
huge
don't
win.
need the any kind of MPE controller to still get something out of it, because there's, and maybe we'll get to this as we move through our talk, but you can like pencil in the stuff too, so
Yeah,
it,
yeah, like
it's
inside the
accessible
clip.
to everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, cool. MPE, huge updates. Let's go back let's finish off the preferences real quick. There's a couple more things in here. Like I said, we could probably talk for like days about all the things. But Record Warp Launch tab in there, down towards the bottom, there's a draw MIDI note with pitch lock. Speaking of MIDI clips, which this thing's cool. So I turned it off, which basically, if you're looking inside here, if you're drawing using your draw mode switch, or some people call it the pencil tool, if you just turn that on and you're drawing notes in a clip left to right, then typically it would just go straight across on one single note left to right. But now with this new MIDI note drawing feature, you can just draw sideways, up and down, and just create like cool curves, which can actually be really fun too. Speaking of the MIDI clip, because over on the left, now there's a new scale option, which is really cool, especially for people not only just to get creative and like composing random notes and things inside of a clip, but also for people who maybe don't have a lot of great music theory. This is actually a really good way just to learn the scales, I think. You could turn on that scale scale mode inside the clip, and then choose the scale you want, and then you can choose scale, and it basically folds all the notes to that scale. So you can just see it in a visual sense. And then you could even just draw that way if you wanted to, using that MIDI note drawing feature that we just talked about.
Yeah, it's a nice way to see what notes are available in the keys.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you have the draw mode, yeah, you can just kind of scribble around, and you're always going to be in key.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice you can invert that function, whether you want it to have
Yeah.
the lock. You just hold down Command, and then then you have the opposite of whatever you have set. So it's a nice
Yep.
it's a nice addition. Again, this is one of those little things that helps a lot.
It
But the
does.
scale stuff is great. What is it? Synchronizes with push. So if you change
Mm-hmm.
the scale and push, it changes it there. And
Mm-hmm.
I've learned a lot by exploring like modes and some more exotic scales that I've never really played around with. I'm in the middle of the January challenge where you're trying to make a jam every day,
Yeah.
and I played around with the whole tone scale, and it was like, if you ever play around with a whole tone, it's like one of
Not a
those
lot.
scales that I don't really know. I was like, what is the usefulness of this scale? Like, it's just, all it is every single note is a step apart. Every note in the scale, it's just a whole step. It's
Oh,
like
yeah. Yeah.
and it's very like pattern, symmetrical, mathematical looking thing. But having that feature, and whether it's on push or whether it's in the MIDI clip itself, I was having a lot of fun, like seeing what I can do with it and just
Okay.
exploring
So
new territory. And
do you find some
came
cool
up with
stuff?
yeah, like I could see how it's really useful for like an eerie vibe, tension, and
Mm-hmm.
I had a Waves tune. It's like the Waves auto tune. And I just put that in whole scale because that's a really difficult thing to
Oh
sing
yeah.
in.
Yeah.
So
That's
I have
interesting.
that going, and it was just really fun to like challenge myself in those worlds, and it really just it gave me some ideas, like if I, especially if I was doing stuff for like film or
Oh
TV,
yeah, some kind of
like
cinematic
to like
thing. Yeah.
yeah, like my artistic expression doesn't always go to those weird eerie vibes, but if I was trying to like build a scene, like you can
Yeah.
really see how that works. So
Yeah.
it's
Some horror
it's
film or something. You can get it real weird. That,
yeah, it's
that
fun to just get in that unfamiliar territory.
yeah. Yeah, I mean Ableton's full of happy accidents. So that's a big thing. I think that draws a lot of people. Um but yeah, all right. So we talked about MIDI note drawing, pitch lock. Um as far as exporting, since we're finishing off preferences, this is, in the export audio video menu, but uploading to SoundCloud went bye-bye. That's not a thing anymore, which is
I've
interesting.
never used it, to
Which
be
I
honest.
never have used it ever.
Yeah.
I actually don't know anybody that's used that, to be honest with you. It's like I feel like that's just an act of laziness at that point. Like you could just upload it yourself,
I
and have
think
more control. I
back in
think.
those days, though, like the idea of SoundCloud was a little bit more almost like an Instagram or a Facebook for audio,
Yeah.
where like because you had like your feed, and you had like groups. So I
Mhm.
can understand you maybe like more haphazardly putting things up on SoundCloud maybe in
Mhm.
those days.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that use ever caught on for people.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, that's just me. Like, I don't want my feed on SoundCloud to be like all these like just random ideas.
Right.
So
Right.
anyway, it's gone, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I honestly am more of a Spotify person anyway, personally.
Hmm.
I like have debates with all my friends, which is better, SoundCloud or Spotify. I feel like that's a common friend debate with all of your people that you hang out with that go to music festivals. Just like, nah, bro, SoundCloud. Yeah.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're under probably still a lot of lawsuits still anyway, so who knows if it'll be a thing in 10 years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, so you want to talk about some browser stuff, Brian? Do you want to talk about the browser? Browser got a nice little facelift.
Yeah, the browser's nice. Some new changes like what like we got grooves are in there. The
Yep.
templates is a nice adjustment.
Templates is
Like any
great.
templates you have, it's a lot easier to make templates now. It used to be a little bit of a workaround.
Yeah,
You can do it in like older versions of Live. You just need to make a folder called templates
right.
inside your user library, and
Mhm.
then the way that works is anytime you open a live set from that folder, it opens it as untitled, so that when you click save, you don't accidentally save over your template,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
cool.
it
But
is.
now it's just a little bit more built in. And you're highlighting that you can now do save live set as template real
Yeah.
easily.
So whatever your set is, I mean, you just go up to file and then you can choose save live set as a template. And then in the browser there's that templates folder that it just
Yeah.
automatically pops up in there for you. Super nice little workflow. It's the little things that count really. And there's a lot of little things in here with
Well,
Live
it
11.
helps you with those repetitive tasks, right? Like
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
record this podcast right now for me, right? Like I have a mic channel for my voice. I've got your voice from Zoom on another channel, and I've got a couple tracks for like audio and music and stuff. I've got the like settings on my mic, which pretty much never change.
Yeah.
So why do that over and over again and waste my precious life doing these tasks that I
Adds
can
up.
just make a template out of? So
Yeah.
it does. If you save yourself, when you start saving yourself a couple seconds here, a couple seconds there, and you're working say for 2 hours and you saved yourself 5 minutes, then tomorrow you
Mhm.
save another five. Even if you're just saving that much, like after a month, you've got a whole session of saved time. You've
Yeah.
built up 2 hours. It's like saving money,
Right.
penny saved,
If
penny
you
earned.
save $5 a day in like a year, you have like $1,800 in your account, like that little thing.
That's
Same thing with music.
crazy. I should do that.
Yeah, I know. I should do that. I'm much better at giving advice than I am actually doing that. But anyway, yeah, so grooves, that's a huge thing. Definitely. I feel like a lot of people, especially who are newer to Ableton Live, were not taking full advantage of the groove pool. And I'm using that almost in every single track now. In fact, I probably use it in every single track for the last 10 releases or so. But I love the groove pool. And I just saved a collection up here with all my favorite grooves. There's a lot in there. So now it's in your face. You have no excuse for any new live users not to know that grooves exist. And then you can just pop that down here in the groove pool.
It's a nice way to add feel, human vibe, and it's not so robotic.
Exactly. Yeah. If you don't know what the groove pool is, exactly, you can assign a groove to audio or MIDI clips, and then they all just kind of have this swing or groove and timing, just kind of having that human expression kind of vibe and the rhythm being played back. So definitely great.
Hey, you mind if I sidetrack our 11 discussion and
do it.
Ask you about what you have? If you keep your screen going.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about your the favorites you have.
Favorite grooves?
No, collections. That's the word I'm looking for.
Oh, my favorite
So you've
collections.
got, you've got one for grooves, which is
Yeah. So organizing my browser, I have one for grooves, and I've got like 8 or 9 grooves in there. And then I have my favorite instruments. So these are like I have an infinite drum rack that I made. I actually kind of stole the idea from Il Gates, who's recently on my podcast. But I was like, thanks, man. Basically, that's just a really fast way to produce drums for me. But yeah, I've got all my instruments in there. And then I have my samples. These are like my risers, drums, special effects and things. And then I have one for mixing. So I do like a fair amount of mixing and mastering for other clients and friends. So I have one where I'm usually just dropping plugins and things like that. And then I have saturation. So I use like a lot of tape machines, or Ableton Live Saturator. Audio effect is like absolutely king. I use that in every track. Then I have one for all my favorite effects, which Live has a ton of effects. Speaking of, now that we've explained that, the audio effects folder in the browser got a nice little organization cleanup. Basically, you have subfolders now because they've been adding so many effects that it just kind of got out of control. So now they did us a favor and just kind of organized everything into, what is that, like 8 folders?
Yeah.
So
I'm still getting used to that.
Yeah, me too.
Like sometimes I'm like, where is my delay, or where is my reverb? Well, reverb's easy because it says reverb, but there are certain things where I'm kind of like, where did that one go again? So I'm still used to that.
And I think it's really helpful too to like use the rank feature. If you right click up at the top in the browser, you can choose you can sort all the results based by rank, how often you use them, or the date you last used it, or the type. And then you can also just Command F if you're on a Mac, or Control F on a PC. That'll instantly start searching the browser based off of the folder that is selected. So that's another easy way to like find everything real quick too.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely.
That's cool how you got your collection going.
Oh, thanks.
Everyone does that different, you
They
get to
do,
select what you like. I've done one recently that's been, I feel like, proud of myself for. So I'm doing the January thing. So I've got these things. I need to make music real fast every day. So I made one of just stuff I want to use in January. It's not like effects or synths. It's just everything that I might want to fool with, and that's sort of the palette. So I could see, like, if I'm working on a project, to make like a collection just for that project. So say I'm working on an EP, like I'm going to do singer-songwriter, acoustic guitar. I might just get everything ready, and then I'm just going to kind of focus on the stuff in there. And it's nice. It's been a nice time saver, and a limitation, because, as we're talking, there's a million things we can do with our sound. Right. It's nice to sort of limit yourself.
No, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And you create a lot of content with like packs and instruments and things. So I'm sure like you have to be crazy organized with all the different sounds and racks that you're building.
made more than I can ever use.
It's insane, actually.
So.
It's honestly insane how many you've made. It's really impressive. It's very impressive.
But it's a problem also. So doing that has been really helpful. And I think, even if you're not making your own sounds, you probably have 8,000 kick drum samples. You probably have a billion different presets and VSTs. So to just put a few in there, I like it. I recommend that a lot.
Definitely. Well, shall we mention Spitfire Audio? Do you think that's something worth mentioning? I think it is.
Tell me about it. I don't know as much about that part.
Okay, well, I'm not sure if I think it's been officially announced, I think. But basically, Live, or Ableton company has partnered with Spitfire Audio. And basically Spitfire Audio just created some new sounds and a new sound library for Live 11. So the upright piano, the brass quartet instruments, the string quartet, they've made some packs, and they're making some presets and things for Live. So as far as some of the orchestral side of Live and some of the sounds and effects, in the past, to be honest, I haven't been the biggest fan. If you use any brass presets or anything in Live's instruments, just kind of was like I just haven't been a huge fan. But Spitfire is a really legit company. They make a lot of sounds and scoring tools for film. They collab with a lot of the world's best composers, musicians, and engineers. So thank you, Ableton, for bringing us some really quality sounds that are going to be coming in pretty soon. So that's great. Very excited for that.
Yeah, I look forward to the updated sound library. I mean, I've only scratched the surface of what's available yet, and I think a lot of it's still to come.
Yeah.
Spitfire has that thing called Labs. It's all free stuff.
Yeah.
Those are great. Anyone listening should check that out. Spitfire Labs. It's a collection of different instruments. They've got a slide guitar, a mellow piano. There's just a lot of really cool stuff with a lot of character, and it's all free. So
yeah, free is great. Honestly, I haven't even downloaded a lot of these, but I know they're a pretty well-known company and they make a lot of really quality stuff. Yeah,
it's
there's
really
a lot of stuff in there,
and it's simple too. It's 2 knobs, 2 faders, and just go.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Right on, man. Yeah, there it is. So
we got the CPU meter, right?
Yes, let's talk about that. So the CPU meter up here got a nice little facelift, which I think is really helpful for live performance specifically, because there's nothing worse than having a little crackle or sputter, little pops during your live set. That's the most depressing thing in the world when you put all this hard work into a show, right? Or a live stream, rather. It's not a lot of shows happening right now. But yeah, it's really cool. It gives you an average and a current display of basically how hard your computer is working. So, but even more so than that, they took it a step further, and in the different sections where you can display different tabs, over here on the right, they have a CPU load meter per track. So I can see how hard each track is, or how each track is making my computer work harder, if that made sense. I said that weird. But yeah, basically each track you can just see, okay, maybe this has a lot of plugins on it. This is what's causing my CPU to be really high and making my computer sweat. So you can kind of diagnose that way. It's really nice. Really happy about that.
It's helpful. From what I understand, those little meters on the tracks, each individual track, is a relative meter. So it's it'll go up to 50% and saying this is where most of the action is happening on your track. So
yeah,
you can really get an understanding of what's eating up your resources.
Yeah.
Save some time. Again, and if your computer's chugging along and having a hard time, and you know what it's like to try to click on things and you get the wheel and everything.
It's true.
This will give you an idea of right where to go so you can fix the problem.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, speaking of other workflows, when this is a little bit of a scatterbrain at this point, but I'd say another feature that is really huge for me, especially for editing podcasts, the podcast that I have, and even for you, Brian, is the create crossfades on clip edges. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just take a drum loop and I'll just chop it up, or even this pad or something. Maybe I'll duplicate it,
Can you share that for us?
Oh,
So
yep.
we can see what
Sorry,
you're
that
doing?
I was sharing. Let's try that again. Here we go.
No problem, man.
Ready? Now you can see my screen. So one thing I'll do, like maybe I'll take this pad and like duplicate it, reverse it. And especially if you make a lot of bass music, you know, if you're doing any kind of resampling or you're chopping up audio clips and doing stuff like this, sometimes if you don't fade in the clips, you'll hear like this little pop, like a little boop, a little clip thing. And so a lot of times I'm spending the extra time making these little fades like that on these clips as they're like transitioning from one clip to the next, right? So with Live 11, you can just highlight all the clips right here, hold down Shift, highlight them, right click, and then choose Create Crossfades on Clip Edges, and it automatically just creates that nice fade for you across all of the ones that you've highlighted. Super useful. So
Yeah, it's nice.
I love that. That's huge for me. It's little, but it's a big thing. Yeah.
That's helpful.
So we talked about MPE. We talked about this. Comping. I know that's like the golden ticket for a lot of people, even just going to Live 11, right? And everybody's talking about comping. I'm sure most of you listening probably have already heard about it. But maybe for those who don't know what comping is, maybe real quick, Brian, do you want to explain comping?
Sure. So
Do you want to share your
compositing.
screen and talk about comping?
I don't think I have it.
That's fine.
Anything
I
useful
can.
to show you besides me recording.
That's cool. I can show it. It's fine.
Our podcast.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm doing it on 10. Now that I think about it.
You're comping on 10?
What a hypocrite, huh? No, I'm recording this podcast on 10.
Oh, on 10. Okay. I was like, comping doesn't.
I'm a big
exist on 10.
liar.
Yeah.
I'm talking about how great 11 is.
Yeah, it is.
But
it is great.
I've been using 10 for the podcast just because I know it's stable. You know, I don't want to have my conversation just disappear. So, like, again, what we said about live performance, this is, in a way, a live performance.
Yeah.
But basically, you can set up, like, a loop. Well, what a comp track is, it's a compilation or a composite of a lot of different takes. And this is so common in recording. It's been going back to the 1950s with tape, where they would actually splice together different takes of tapes to make a full take. You know, say the first part of the track sounded great, but they kind of messed up it later on. They can take 3 and comp it with take 4. But the way it's being used now in like our modern studio is, like, Dan right now has got a loop going, and suppose that's his vocal track. He can be singing this verse over and over again. Just keep going, do it a bunch of times, and then when he is...
It's me singing, so you can see it now. Sounded great, didn't it?
Right. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
And once he gets like a couple passes, we can
Checkity
go
check.
in and we can basically pick the best part of each take and combine them, comp them together into one take. So he's going to show the take lanes, and you can see all the different passes of that looped recording. And he can just go in there right now and highlight the specific words or phrases he wants of each one to just make the best possible version. And when you're listening, especially I think to like modern pop music, you're probably hearing, I mean, even on great singers, you're hearing many, many different takes compiled together to make that perfect take. And this is just a great way to get your stuff just right. I find it really handy for when I'm coming up with ideas. Even I'll just loop a section. One of the ways I like to come up with vocal parts is to just blabber, you know, just nonsense words, almost scatting. Just let things happen, and then I'll go back and just kind of check what I got. And sometimes I can just put together this thing based on what I've done.
Yeah.
So you get these take lanes, and the grayed out ones are the ones we're not hearing. And the yellow ones in this case are the ones we're hearing, and it displays on the top a composite of those different takes.
Yeah, that's super great. And then you can keep the take lanes, like they'll always stay there. Or you could like solo each take lane if you wanted to hear the whole thing and just kind of listen one by one. So that's usually, and we have similar workflow. I'll just kind of like let it go and just kind of do some weird stuff, play around for as long as I need to. And if I don't want to keep all that audio, because I feel like that would make your project file pretty huge, right? You can just delete those take lanes too if you wanted to. Just delete them like that, and then just keep the main one up here, and then you can choose to show them or not. So that's really cool for video though as well, right?
Oh yeah, you can do it with video too, which is amazing. You do it with MIDI also.
And MIDI, yeah, it's audio and MIDI for sure.
So you can take the beauty. One of the things that Live really nailed here, because this isn't a new feature in DAWs. Logic has been doing this since I was using Logic over 10 years ago, and it's one of those things where I'd say, that was a good thing about Logic, but now Live's got it. But what Live does to take it to the next level is you can keep those take lanes open and just drop any sample in there. It doesn't have to be the takes you did. You can throw in you can have like 5 take lanes over and throw in 5 different drum beats, and then just select which hits from each drum part you want to use in there. And you can, rather than crazy hyper micro editing, you just do a quick swipe of the pencil tool and you've made all these cool micro edits. And Dan's kind of doing that right now.
Yep. Yeah,
He's
it's
got
super fun.
A couple things going.
Yeah, it's a great time.
It's a great creative tool. And if you're doing video, you can take your 4 different camera angles, throw them all on the take lanes, and then just do your transitions between things with a swipe of the pencil.
Yep, and I've got that set up in here too, actually. We could hit play, and then I'll pull up the screen. You can see it's got this playing. So it's this bubble splashing water video. But I can go down here and just turn on my little draw tool, and I can just chop up this video, make it jump around a little bit. So now if I pull up that video window, you see with these take lanes, up here we've got that master up here, and then we go to view video window, and now you'll see it's jumping around quite a bit between those different videos. And there's some lag obviously because we're recording this on Zoom, and I can hear my computer fan spinning a little bit. It's about to take off flight. But yeah, so that's great. Yeah, definitely really cool video comping. It's kind of fun. You could drop in, and honestly, one idea is you could just drop in an entire track that you have mastered. And one thing I'm going to probably do for my shows in the future is I'll do that, and then I'll drop in, say, 7 or 8 different videos, and then I can just scrub to the beat of the song, just lock in the BPM, and you can just every 4 measures or whatever or certain hits, I can just create this video, and then I can export that video out of Live and have it as this really cool chopped up effect video to the song, to the beat.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they really. We had to wait a little while for it, but they did some really nice things with takes and comping.
Yeah.
It's been so fun, and as a creative tool, just not even just for getting your perfect vocal take where every syllable.
Right.
See what happens when you start.
Definitely.
It's a lot easier than doing the micro editing that we used to have to do.
Yeah, honestly, I'm thankful I was born at the time that I'm in now, so I didn't have to cut tape machines and everything back in the day, and only stuck to 4 tracks.
Yeah.
It's come a long way. It's pretty amazing. But anyway, yeah, so should we talk a little bit more about some of the clip updates? Because if you open up a clip, it's going to look different than it does in Live 10, which could throw some people off. There's a new layout, so one thing that's really cool, and Brian, you were talking about this before we hit record, is velocity and probability. So we have our normal velocity notes, right? So if I was just to draw on a couple notes here, actually let me just use an existing actual sound. So here's a little doodle I put together the other day. It doesn't sound, it's probably not something I'm going to release, but you can kind of hear what it sounds like. So inside the clips, if we're looking at my screen, yep, so then I've got this hi-hat, right? And we've got these 3 views, which pretty much is everything from the previous clips and all the features, just a little different way of looking at them. And there's some new features like this probability. Most of us probably know what the velocity is, just how hard the notes are hitting. But then we have our probability. So for this hi-hat, for example, let me turn off that effect. For the hi-hat, we have probability. So I could literally just get out my draw tool, and I can just draw up and down the probability down here. So The probability is just how it's when and if the note is actually going to play at all. So if I hit play, hear the hi-hat. If you listen to the hi-hat, it's not playing every note like it was before.
Got like 16th notes going or something.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So instead of just being completely straight. Yep. Now we can just have some randomization in that. It's kind of fun. So I love using that for like percussion or hi-hats. You can just kind of create that rhythm as if a drummer was just jamming kind of thing.
Yeah. That kind of like the thing that I used to not like about real human drummers back in the day, they play the same thing, throughout. It's too tempting, you're just hitting things. So I get it.
That's true. That I'm a drummer. I can attest that drummers can be annoying in band practice. It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but like now you can throw that stuff in and you can have like that occasional extra note here or there happen, and you can take a 1-bar clip and with some probability of less than 100%, it'll never play the same again. You can program in 16th note hi-hats and put them all at 50%, and you'll get this interesting, ever-changing rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That's one of my favorite or most used features, the probability. Velocity also has like a kind of version of that. There's like a velocity range you can set. So like any notes you highlight, you can go into that little velocity range, and then it'll give you like anywhere. It'll play anything from like what you have to whatever you put in. So right now he's got what do you got, like
minus 54 is what I set the range.
Yeah, the range there will be anything that the note is at down to 54 below it. So
yeah,
it's sort of like a random within that range.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. Adds a little bit of that randomization. And then there's actually a randomize button there too. So you can just click.
Totally randomizing all.
Yeah, you just totally randomize the velocity of everything down there. It's pretty wild. And then it's determined. It randomizes whatever's selected. So if I select the velocity and I hit randomize, it randomizes velocity or the probability. You can do the same, which is really cool. And then in the other tab, in the envelope tab, they updated. This is like kind of a pretty small thing, but they updated some of the drawing sensitivity with automation. So I just find that just creating dots with automation inside the clip or the track, it's just a lot more sensitive and it's a little smarter, I guess is probably the best way I could describe it. It's just smarter. But yeah, I mean, that's another little micro change that I think is worth saying. Let's see. Inside the clip, what else, Brian? What else inside here?
Well,
that's new versus the previous one.
The follow actions are a little more understandable, I think.
I agree. Follow actions are big.
Follow actions is basically it's a command you can set up where you can tell the clip to do something after a certain amount of time. So you might have it just play the next clip below it. So we're talking in session view now.
Yep.
If you have, say, like 3 clips on top of each other, you can say after 3 bars, play the next clip, or after 4 bars, play one of these clips at random. There's some nice little features there, and it's been made a little bit easier. A few extra options. You can have it jump to specific clips.
Yep. So this little window right here, you open that up, and then you can see all that right in here.
You have 2 choices. You can set up 2 follow actions, and that slider is now just percentage, so it's kind of like the probability of which one will play. It used to be a ratio, which was much more difficult to explain to people.
Yeah, yeah.
This is just kind of simple. So yeah, some little extra features there, but the follow actions are also on the master too, which is probably the big news.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, on the scenes. So if you click one of the scenes on the master track in session view, yeah, you can turn on the follow action. You can do follow action by scene, which is really cool. That would have been a huge game changer for me a couple years ago, the way I was performing. It's a little different now for me, but yeah, this is really cool. Especially if you want to repeat like a certain section of a song, just basically build them out inside of the scenes in session view, and you can have parts jump around or move around. But then you can also do it on the clip level, like you were saying, which is really cool. And also, you have a follow action multiplier as well. So you can set the number of loops that the clip is going to play before the follow action is actually triggered, which is really kind of fun. So some extra flexibility.
And that global follow action button, there's a button to turn off all of the follow actions on all of your clips on the master, right by the back to arrangement button.
Oh, yeah. I actually didn't even know that was there. That's great. Yeah, enable follow action.
It's so handy because like I've made sets where I set them all up, or sometimes I'll even make like generative music where every track has just random follow actions.
Oh, that sounds terrible to fix later.
If you want to fix it later, you have to go into each clip.
Oh man.
One by one. This, you just turn them all off, turn them all on. It's great.
Yeah. Well, you can even highlight multiple clips too. It looks like it highlight all these clips on different tracks and turn them on or off together as well. So that's cool.
Yeah, but that's the extra, you know.
Yeah, it's the one extra move. Well, I mean, even just like if it wasn't all of the clips, but just say a big chunk of them or something.
And that visualization on the playhead of each clip, like right now you have no follow actions, I can tell, because the play button is normal, but as soon as you turn one on, it becomes this kind of like different look.
Yeah, it's like got some lines on it. Yeah. That is a nice little visual feature too. I didn't even realize that either. I could tell you're a follow action kind of guy.
I use follow actions a lot for drum fills. So I'll set up like I actually have like a group of just random tom hits, you know, and random drum fills, and I'll have it cycle through those group of clips randomly, and then I can play the clip I was originally playing, and it kind of switches between them.
That's cool.
Yeah, so you get like a different fill every time. You just press one button, and it's like just chop. It's like chopping a clip, you know.
Love it. That's cool, man. Yeah. Speaking of some new workflows with MIDI clips and things, another huge thing was the macro control variation feature. So our macro controls got a nice facelift with 11 as well. So now we can have up to 16. So we can have up to 16 macros, and you can expand or collapse them. Say what?
And as few as one.
Yeah, and you can always go down to one, just for the sake of having one big knob and saving all the real estate on your...
I love that.
Yeah, me too. It's just nice and simple. But then an even step further is you can open up this little macro variation view, and now I can click this new button, and I can create new variations of all the different macro knobs. So for example, I've got these 8 macro knobs, right? And if I hit play on this variation, it's going to snap it into different knob preset positions for me. So then if I click this little overwrite macro variation, it basically kind of takes like a snapshot of the position of all the macro knobs, and it locks it into that variation. And then I can go to variation number 2, and I can move a bunch of knobs and then just choose to lock it into that variation. And then I just hit play to jump back and forth between these different presets of the position of the knobs. And you can even MIDI map that too, I believe. Yeah, you can MIDI map those. It's called the launch macro variation button, just a little play button. So you can launch those at certain points and throughout your set if you wanted to as well, which is kind of fun.
Nice.
And then there's a random button up here as well at the top right. So you can choose randomize. And then if you can just play around, and if you're like, ooh, that's cool, then you can save that variation, create a new one, keep doing it until you find these cool, different, interesting sounds. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, and that's like a little fun thing to do, just to inject a little inspiration.
Yeah, totally.
Get some results you wouldn't normally do.
Exactly, man. Like even, yeah, I mean, just for example, like I was playing around with this, this bass sound. If I just hit randomize, it's going to come up with different stuff.
And you got that pesky volume knob getting changed, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing that's really annoying. So you can right-click on...
it.
Yeah, exactly. So you can right-click the volume knob, and then you can choose remove... Oh, where'd it go? Yeah, exclude macro from randomization. Yeah, so we can just tell that knob, nope, I don't want you to go random. Because you noticed it was getting loud and then quiet.
Yeah, the volume, like, you probably don't want moving around as much.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's love it.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. That's really cool. So that's a really fun creative tool. Um, let's see.
yeah, it just
Uh,
injects that like little extra inspiration. If you're like, ah, man, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'll click on that. It's like, oh, whoa, here I am somewhere new,
yeah,
real
surprise.
fast.
Well, have you had a chance, Brian, to play with a lot of the new MIDI effects and audio effects? Because like Live 11 did not sleep on their new effects. There's quite a bit of new ones, and a lot of them actually were Max for Live devices that now are just stock inside of Live 11.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I love like the some of the modulator things like the LFO, the envelope follower. Those are great tools.
Mm-hmm.
And they have just a more like more presence inside. They're just in the audio effects. You don't have to go into Max for Live and find them. I think people get scared of anything Max for Live because it's programming, and you can go in there and take these things apart and make them into new things, but you don't have to. You can use them just like any device in Live.
Yeah.
I don't do any programming in Max for Live myself, so
Yeah, I don't really
um,
either a lot.
I
I
still get
have,
a
but
lot out of it.
yeah, definitely, definitely. And thanks to everybody else out there who's Max for Live developing all the time, making some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, like Toby Hunke is a really good
Yeah, Ableton
example of
drummer.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, AbletonDrummer.com. Shout out to him. Been meaning to
Yeah.
have him on the podcast, actually. He did a webinar with me back in the day.
Nice. Yeah,
Super
he's
nice
great.
guy.
And
Love
what's
Toby.
cool about him is he's so specifically a drummer, and
He
he's
is.
using Live as a drummer.
Yeah. Yeah. He
So if
makes
you're a
tons
drummer,
of.
like, he's the guy.
He really is. I mean, I've used some of his patches for my Roland drum pad.
Cool.
I've used that to change bank presets with Live. Basically, Live telling it to jump around between different banks and things performing.
Right.
So he makes a
Nice.
lot of good Max for Live things. But yeah, so audio effects, I'd have to say probably like the most simple and one of my favorite is like note length or note echo.
Hmm.
So for example, this bass thing, I'll just play this little doodle I came up with.
So I haven't played with no echo.
So if I play with the note, this is the note length. You can adjust the length of the MIDI notes and how long it's actually sustaining. It basically just stretches out those notes or like shortens them really quick with this MIDI effect. Yeah, so that's just like a really rough example of what that looks like. It also comes with a gate, so you could really like change the percentage of the length value of how long the notes are going to be held for. So like you can basically gate those notes as well. It's real specific. You can really mess with the MIDI notes and how they're playing. You can choose whether the device is going to be triggered by a MIDI note on or off messages, so you can get really specific inside the clip if you wanted. So yeah, that thing's really cool. Let me go back to where I was just at. Yeah, and then there's the note decay, or I'm sorry, note echo, which I had on this bells preset. So if I'm just gonna like pull up a sound, I apologize for the non-musical thing I'm about to play, but yep. So if I turn on note echo, I'm just hitting the keyboard once. Yep, and then so it basically is kind of like an arpeggiator, but stripped down in a sense. So you can change the speed of the notes just by hitting it, and you could sync it or you could throw it off time a little bit. And then you can like mute the. Actually, I don't even know. I don't really know a lot about this, but you can change the pitch. Go
The
ahead.
through will let the note you play come through as you hit the button or hit the key. Mute will just play the delay only.
Ah, gotcha. Yep, that's what it is, for sure. And then the pitch, you can also kind of pitch those notes.
Let's just see how it transpose. That's cool.
Yep,
So
just
you can-
transposing the notes.
So now that's playing. I haven't played with Note Echo yet. So is that playing your original note at the original octave, and then if you pitch it up, it'll go.
Yep, exactly. So it looks like, so it's gonna progressively raise that note over a period of time. So 12
Oh, cool.
semitones. Yeah. So if I hit C, it's just gonna, like, if it was like C2
Hmm.
and it's on, what is that, quarter notes, and then it's just gonna basically
That's
pitch
almost
it
like an
up
arpeggiator.
as it goes. Yeah, it's like an arpeggiator, but just like kind of stripped down, like I was saying. And you can adjust the feedback, feed delay. Things really cool. Just to get some interesting MIDI results. Then we also have the MPE control, which you can get real detailed with this thing. Inside of our MIDI effects, if I drag that on here, you can really adjust like the pressure, the slide, the pitch. And if I'm playing with like my mod wheel over here, my pitch wheel, like you can really dial in and like change it. So like for pressure, for example, if I'm hitting a note, actually pressure is probably not. Oh, my computer's sputtering a little bit. It's crying a little bit. But yeah, basically MPE control, you can just kind of dial in some of that MPE setting and the expressivity of like holding down aftertouch or messing with like your pitch wheel and different things on your controller. So you can get a little more expressive with that. I've had some fun with that. What other instruments, Brian? How about you? Or other audio effects or MIDI effects?
Um, the the two that I keep coming back to are hybrid reverb, which I see you got right there,
Yes, I
and the
love
spectral
hybrid.
resonator
Yes,
are my two favorites right now.
huge fan.
Hybrid reverb is awesome.
It's amazing. It was the reverb that live always needed but didn't really have, except for convolution reverb, which was a Max for Live device. So you had to have 9 or 10 suite, basically, or purchase Max separately. So yeah, definitely. It's my new favorite stock reverb in live for sure. Yeah.
So it's got the convolution reverb, which is so cool because you can put in your own convolutions. Basic convolution reverb takes like a sample and recreates the reverb of that sample, to just put it super simple.
Mm-hmm.
So something I've done in the past is like if I'm in a room that sounds cool, I'll like just clap my hands in the room and record that, like one clap, and record the clap as long as the echo too.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can drop that sample in there. I did a free pack if people use an 11 called Bathroom Reverb. And
Nice. Nice.
at my job, the bathroom, it's all tile. It has this like 10-second reverb. It's insane, you know? Like, so I recorded that, and then you drop it into hybrid reverb on the convolution end, and you've got this insane bathroom reverb. It's much nicer to just put that on hybrid reverb and then apply that bathroom reverb to any sound than it is to say bring your recording equipment into the public restroom and try to get that cool reverb.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I just dragged like a
Um,
random sample
be-
into here, and you can see that you have like these different modes at the bottom. So you can change to the user mode and then drop in any audio sample you want, like you said. Yeah.
there's the algorithmic side is the reason it's called hybrid is because it's got both the convolution reverb, which uses samples, but it's also got your algorithmic reverb, which is more like computer, programming, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got some super cool algorithms. I'm in love with there's the Tides one, and then there's the Shimmer one.
I don't
And
think I've played with Tides. This is.
it's like not even reverb when you start turning some of those, like the decay knob, the Tide knob. Like if you hear like what it does to the sound, like if you just had that little kind of arpeggiating line going, yeah, he's increasing his buffer size.
Yeah,
to
my
get
computer is sputtering a little bit. Yeah.
You were low at 64. That's
Yeah, 64 was
impressive.
pretty low. Yeah. This computer's. She's been pretty good to me. Yeah, so this with. So I ended up changing it. Let me change it back from the user. Let's do like a real place. Let's use a different preset. And we can maybe a good church sound. So the Tides, yeah, that sounds cool. Here's like a shimmer sound. That's so nice. Have you ever played with Valhalla Shimmer?
No, not Shimmer.
This
Valhalla
is
makes great stuff, but
they
I
make
have a
great
different
stuff.
one.
I use Shimmer all the time, and this is like, it sounds a lot like it to me.
Yeah, the shimmer reverb is like it kind of like pitches it up and or
Yeah,
down. I think you can do it.
you get some really cool spacious effects.
I think there's a lot of magic when you start modulating those knobs, like as the sounds are going through them. As you like increase like the decay time, like weird stuff happens. The shimmer percent, um, you'll start to just like I think like those algorithms are almost not even. Sometimes they don't even sound like reverb. They're just like these weird effects that have a
Mm-hmm.
sort of reverberant quality.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, and it's
I've been running sequences through hybrid reverb on the algorithm setting and just like slowly turning the knobs and like get lost in there for a while.
yeah,
Just wow.
yeah. And it has a built-in EQ, which is so nice as well. So we can go into the EQ and
That's
kind of,
thoughtful.
it's very thoughtful of them. That's true because I'm always using reverb on my return tracks. So typically, what a lot of times I'll do is I'll have like a dedicated room. So this would just be like my room reverb on a return track, and then I would just put, say, this for example on that return track, and I always usually add an EQ after, like using Valhalla or something. But this has a built-in EQ, so cut off those lows so the mix doesn't sound muddy when I'm sending most of the tracks to that one room, and then cleaning up
Yeah.
some of the highs too. So that was nice. But yeah,
It's
so
got that nice vintage control too.
yeah,
That
yeah, it makes it sound
is
warm.
pretty sick
Yeah, you can add a
and
little bit of like tape
terrible.
hiss almost kind of sound, like an
it,
extreme.
it
It's pretty
gets
extreme.
it gets a beautiful terrible, you know, like
It is
you
like,
just like really run it down.
yeah,
I'm like, you know, I love destroying my recordings, so um
I love destroying my recordings. Yeah,
yeah,
just
so
make it
stuff like
sound
that
like
is
vintage trash. That's what I'm going for. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's
Well,
awesome.
that's like where I think a lot of like feeling happens, a lot of emotion and vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, like around old is like where I like that vintage control. It goes like I think subtle to extreme, but one of the ones in the middle is like old, and that's a kind of a sweet spot in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, this is fun. Yeah, there's I mean, we could just to shout out a couple other ones, obviously if we wanted to do the proper thing, we would just be sitting here for the next like 4 to 5 days just going through everything because there's so many other updates with Live 11. But a couple of my other favorites is the chorus ensemble. I find that's really cool on vocals, or I even put it on like my saxophone. But they basically took the chorus effect and gave it a facelift, and now it has like a nice visualization aspect to it. They updated the UI for a lot of devices, like Corpus, for example, got another update. And I think I had that over here on the hi-hat. So Corpus got an update. Electric Instrument got an update with some of the design. So I think it's just a lot easier to use. I remember when I was first getting into live, like I opened up some of these effects and I was like, I don't even know what to do, and because it was just a bunch of knobs everywhere. And I feel like having this visualization to these effects that got a huge facelift is just really nice and inspires me to jump into them a little more because you can get a little more detailed in some ways, see visually what's going on.
Yeah, makes a little more sense.
It does, yeah. Phaser flanger is another great example of that. The phaser and flanger is now like a happy couple into one device. Playing with the feedback on that thing could be really fun. You can get some really cool effects. Redux got a facelift as well.
Very happy with what they did with Redux because
Yeah,
now it has like the dry wet control,
yeah,
a couple other knobs in there, some filters that help. Because sometimes Redux sounded too much like Redux.
yeah, yeah. It
I
did.
can hear it on recordings. And like I know what that is. You know,
Yeah,
I know that's turning that one. No, just I hear it. It's a cool effect, but
yeah.
it was like so characteristic.
Mm-hmm.
And now with especially with the dry wet, it's a little more subtle. And
Mm-hmm.
there's if you turn the old Redux bit rate down, like past like 6 or so, the volume would just like blast out of the speakers.
It's true. Yeah, it
And
was a little much. I remember almost like blowing my eardrums one time just playing with
yeah,
this.
they kind of put that under control a little bit too.
They did. Yeah, and that dry wet is huge because you can add like some subtle distortion, even to some basses. Like if I'm mixing some like a heavier track, that's more like heavy dance music kind of stuff. You just playing a little bit with the bits and the rate, and then pulling down that dry wet just to add a little grit to it is really nice. It's kind of like a different flavor of the saturator in a sense, in the way that I've used it. And then you can pre or post filter the sound, which is really nice for the input and output.
Even.
Yeah, or both, exactly. So yeah, definitely shout out to Redux. The shaper is now included. That was a Max for Live device, and now it's also built in. And I love shaper. It's extremely detailed. I don't think I need to really use the LFO anymore, to be honest with you. I think this is my new LFO tool.
It's like build your own LFO.
It really is, because you can just draw these dots and create your own waveforms. You can create your own, basically how you want that wobble or wiggle or whatever to happen, and you can map that to any parameter. So I can map it to the volume on the track if I wanted to. You see it's just moving up and down. I can adjust the speed. So, and then it's got all these predefined curves that you can use to shape the sound or cause volume or assign it to any knob really to create that automatic movement for you and get really detailed. So this thing is shaper for the win. I've had fun with that.
I use that sometimes instead of like side chaining, like bass
Oh
to
yeah,
the kick. You know, just use a shaper. You just can draw it a little more precise.
That's cool.
Rather than trying to get the parameters on your compressor. You know, all that like attack, release, and everything. It's a little bit easier to just look at the shape.
Yeah, that's true. That visual component is huge. And that's true. Yeah, that's why there's like certain plugins I like more than others. It's not always even just the sound. It's just like, ooh, this looks pretty. This is so pretty. But speaking of visualization,
that matters, I think.
It does.
You know,
it really does. It's inspiring.
It's nice to have something pleasant to look at.
Well, let's talk about pleasant things to look at. Spectral Resonator, really dope. I love this thing, and I honestly haven't played with it enough to save my life, but the few times that I pulled it up and started messing with it, I had a lot of fun. And it's got 2 modes, so you can choose MIDI mode, which is like basically it's changing and affecting like the pitch in a lot of ways of like the incoming MIDI notes that it's hearing. Or you could choose internal mode, which like the pitch is set using the frequency control. So you have a little more control in some ways. Then you can even choose MIDI from, if you go into this MIDI mode. You can have it playing notes from other tracks if you wanted to as well. Or adjusting like the effects of what's happening. Yeah.
You can kind of use it like a vocoder. You can sing into it and play keys, and it'll listen to like the notes you play.
Yeah.
My favorite trick of late is to put that on my drums. Put Spectral Resonator on my drums, and then have the MIDI listen to chords that might be playing on another track.
What?
And those notes will play only when the drums hit, and it like creates a new instrument in your mix.
That's
just throwing that on there.
That's a cool idea. So I could put that, say, on this pad. I've got this pad sound. But it would be listening to maybe the drums. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe just have it listen to. Well, I put I mean, you can do whatever you want, right? But I put the Spectral Resonator on a drum track.
Oh, you put it on the drum track. Okay, and then you assign
and then
that.
Maybe if you've got, I don't know if you have anything like playing MIDI notes.
Yeah. Yep. So it's basically playing that bass line that you just heard, that synth, that bass synth.
Yeah, now pull the dry wet down a little bit on the Spectral Resonator.
Ooh.
So
that's fat. That's nice. And then it's got
you're just listening to the drums, but you got that like...
That's nice.
Yeah.
But then you've got all these other different modulation modes that we can play with. So I got a chorus. So it's just Ooh, that's nice. That like really widens and thickens out the drums. Could be some phasing issues if you went too crazy with that, but that's cool. Maybe wander.
There's a lot, I'm still learning like what exactly all these different types of, chorus wander and all that. But there's some sweet spots you can find where all of a sudden it's like new instruments are like coming out of the track. And it's totally new type of effect.
Yeah.
I'm really digging a lot.
There's also spectral time, which is I really haven't played with this a whole lot, but I need to. This thing is real interesting. So it's basically it's modulating a lot of the like decay and the timing of the notes. It sounds like, and doing some other things.
Yeah.
This thing's pretty cool.
It's a little tough to say.
Yeah, it's really. I just need to dive in and spend some more time with it, to be
Yeah.
honest. But
Yeah, I've been a little more with the resonator than the time, but
Resonator's
feels
wild.
more like a spatial reverby. It's got that freeze control, which you can suddenly your ambient music land really easy. You can
yeah, that thing's yeah. That's really cool, man.
these are great tools if you want to be an ambient artist. You can suddenly just
It's
bust
experimental, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
You just wash everything out with reverb. Just call it experimental or something. Ambient reverb. Reverb makes everything sound better. Yeah, and then we've got that hybrid reverb we talked about. That thing's really cool. See, there's a couple other effects definitely we haven't even talked about yet. Any other effects that you think we definitely need to mention or shout out? Expression control, the
I
MIDI
wanna
track is cool too.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Haven't spent a lot of time with this either, to be honest with you, but it's basically you can map say
Yeah,
like I can map
maybe
this
MIDI to
velocity.
anything.
Yeah, you can map the velocity of my keyboard or the mod wheel or pitch bend to another parameter in Ableton Live. So if I'm moving my mod wheel on my keyboard, my MIDI keyboard, I can actually map that with this expression control, my mod wheel, to something else really quickly. It could be on a different track too, so that's kind of fun. But
random is wonderful there.
yeah,
You
yeah,
can randomly modulate anything you want.
yeah. So that's pretty fun.
I have to shout out just compressor. If you look at compressor now, and there were a couple devices I noticed little extra readouts on, but if you just look at compressor on the gain reduction area, it now tells you the actual number of your gain reduction.
Oh, dude, I didn't
that was
know
never there
that.
before.
That's great.
So
That's very
like
exciting.
you're reducing the gain by like 6 dB.
Yeah, a lot of
You just have
plugins do that.
number.
Most of the plugins I use outside of Ableton Live do that. So that's really cool. That's super. Yeah, for sure.
So we got no gain reduction.
Now I have some gain reduction.
Now you know how much you have too.
Yeah, it's telling me right now it's like -9. That's great, man. And I assume if you were to change that
Yeah, it
to
still shows
RMS, it's gonna show you that. Yeah, same.
expander.
Yep, you can expand it too.
It tells you how much.
It tells you, yeah, it's going positive now. That's really cool. That's really cool. Wow, thank you,
I
Brian,
think
for
the
that.
gate might have. Is the gate maybe? Something else has it. There are a couple like just small visual things on older older devices. Maybe I'm wrong with the gate.
Yeah, I don't see it on the gate, but that's cool. Yeah, that's big on the compressor. That was a nice update.
It might be those. It might be those readouts actually on the left there of the graph with the decibels. I tell you what, I have Live 10 open. I can tell you.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Well, you got on the left-hand side there. Oh no, that's on. That's on. Never mind. That's not new.
Yeah, it's not reading on the gate. But that's still really cool. I mean, that's that compressor thing. That's nice. Corpus got a nice update. Electric, like I said, got a nice update with the interface, the layout, collision, tension. Definitely it has attracted me to play with them more. It has a nice new UI. Yeah, man. See, there's a couple other shortcuts that are pretty nice that were released. What do you? Are there any shortcuts off the top of your head, Brian, that you like with 11?
Shortcuts.
Command 4.
For the grid.
Yeah, for the grid, you can snap the grid to basically either be off or fixed.
Yeah, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4 are all grid. 1, it might expand it, and 2 might shrink it, and
Oh yeah, yeah,
3
yeah.
is triplet.
Oh,
And
that's cool. 3
yeah,
is triplet. I didn't know that. That's dope. Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. So you can easily just command 1 or 2. Yeah, that's a big one.
nothing
I feel
comes to
like
mind
that's a
though.
huge one for a lot of people don't even know. It's just
Uh,
being able to switch
That's
that
in
grid.
10. That stuff is you can do that in 10.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, I feel like I didn't even know that existed for a long time using Ableton, to be honest. Um,
Yeah, well, it's easy enough. Like the grid adapts, so a lot of times you don't have to think about it. But when you need
hmm
it, it's a handy little thing.
It's true.
I like to
Shortcuts are
turn it
great.
on and off.
hmm Yeah, especially when I'm editing podcasts. You can just scrub real quick, delete, move clips. But
Hmm
yeah, man,
My
I'm
biggest podcast my podcast keyboard shortcut is Shift Command Delete for delete time.
yeah.
So if I need to delete, like say like a long silence or something, um, just highlight it, Shift Command Delete. It just deletes the time,
hmm
so it'll pull out like you know, it just it deletes the time. I guess is the best way to say it. It
Yeah,
it it
yeah.
deletes what you wanted to delete and pulls everything else back to it.
One of my like biggest epiphanies in the world of shortcuts was when I was becoming a certified trainer um, last year, and Dennis taught us Bro Slim. It's like if you hold down Shift and Option, you type
Oh,
BROSLIM. That expands and claps all the main views in
I
live.
never heard that acronym, Bro
Really?
Slim.
Yeah, Bro Slim, man, it changed
That's
my
good.
life.
That's
Everybody
good.
on the podcast right now is like, "What?" Yeah, it really was a big one. But yeah, you can just
Yeah, I was just like
boom.
IOU.
Yeah, just open everything and close it real fast. So yeah, shout out to Ableton Live making great shortcuts. So I mean, we could, like I said, we could probably sit here and talk more about Live. 11 updates for
Let's do it.
years. He's like, let's go, dude. Yeah. Unfortunately, I have band practice in like an hour, so I have to go get ready for that.
Nice.
But
So
yeah,
I
anything
wanted, if
else?
you don't mind me just asking you quickly about that. So you guys have been able to play some shows recently.
Yeah, man, we
How's
played.
that been in this new world of ours? You know, how
Yeah, it's been a weird 2020, but we actually one of my buddies, Ross, aka Rosto, is his producer name. He's become a pretty good friend of mine, and he's really heavily involved in the entertainment industry for like major festivals and live shows, and has done a lot of production for major festivals like Burning Man and all kinds of things. So he really got, kicked in the butt in 2020 because he didn't have a job. He still doesn't really, because of everything. He was on a previous podcast episode, actually, a couple episodes ago, if you guys want to rewind and listen. But he talks about building virtual environments for live streams. And so through the conversations of everything going on in the industry, he's like, you know what? I'm using this software called Depends 2 by a company called Synchronorm. And we wanted to do a good cause for the city because the homeless population has really been struggling. So for New Year's Eve this year, for 2021, we had 19 artists, and he built like two virtual stages and programmed lighting as if it was like a real actual event. He rented like a really nice Grand MA console that he would use to program the lights, programmed all the lights and everything real time as if he was doing an actual show in the virtual environment. It looks crazy real. But then we shot everything at a green screen studio, and he inserted us into this virtual environment. And we raised $13,000 for the homeless in Indianapolis through that. It was a free event.
wow.
Just really feeling blessed and just really grateful for all the support of the local music scene here in Indianapolis and Indiana, where I'm based out of, and so is he. So yeah, that was the most
Wow.
recent show live stream that we did, was on New Year's Eve, and actually releasing
That's
it this
awesome, man.
next week because of copyright reasons. You couldn't replay it because we did get like an ASCAP and a BMI and CSAC license and everything, because we didn't want to get sued or have to deal with all that bullshit. But he yeah, he put a lot of heart into it, and that was the last show I played with the band and I, we played together, and yeah, it was fun. It was really, really fun.
Wow, and
So
that's a
hope,
lot of money, man. That's awesome.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, I was just really grateful to be part of it and do something for a good cause, and you know,
Yeah.
so it was fun. It was really good to see that community, and all the 19 artists were like really into it and sharing it and promoting it. So I have to give them a lot of credit as well. But yeah, it was fun, man. Actually, I think Ross and I are going to do a podcast episode talking about a lot of the nerdy tech stuff of how he pulled off a music festival in 3.5 weeks programming with 19 artists is
Yeah.
insane.
I'd love to hear that.
It was pretty insane. But yeah, how about you, man? Are you releasing any new music? You don't produce under the name Afro DJ Mac anymore. That's pretty much RIP, isn't it?
R.I.P.
Yeah,
Old news. I
old news.
unbranded. I'm just me.
It's just you, just Mr. Brian Funk now, huh?
Yep. That's it. Just
Love
my
it.
normal name. That is my real name, everybody.
It really is. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just nice to not have any of that. But yeah, I did like an ambient EP right before we locked down, right, kind of like right as we were locking down. And right now, I'm doing the January stuff. I'm kind of gathering ideas, and
Mm,
I'm tapping into a couple different directions that I might want to go. So
awesome.
my plan is it's kind of what I did last year. I did January and I finished in February and released in March. So that's kind of what I want to do again. I have
Yeah.
been able to play with a couple friends of mine in like a little 3-piece rock band.
Cool.
So we're also working on some stuff, which has been fun. We've had our hiccups here and there with the COVID situation, but I just when we are able to get together and we have some space to play with other people is so refreshing.
Yeah, no, it really is.
Yeah.
Like something I always say and I always live by is just like collaboration is key. Don't try to make everything all the time by yourself. It's more fun when you get other people involved.
Yeah, I
Sometimes.
love both.
Yeah.
I love doing my own thing, but when I get together with these guys, it's nice to not, micromanage everything
Yeah.
and like let ideas happen, and
Yeah.
it's great. Like
For
it's
sure.
new thing, and then you wind up doing things you never would have thought to do because you're reacting off of what someone else did, and it's just this cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's
About
great.
to do that tonight. I made a post, a very ambitious post on my affiliate page the other day and was like, I'm going to release one song a month in 2021. And then after I
Nice.
posted that, a couple days later, I'm like, I got a lot of stuff I got to get done. But I'm going to do it. So releasing a
Yeah.
remix of Hotline Bling by Drake in 2 weeks.
Cool.
Started out as a total joke, and it actually turned out to be probably one of my favorite tracks I made in a really long time. It's a
Wow.
banger. It's pretty fun.
Nice.
But yeah, man,
Yeah,
I
I mean
love the
that's
January.
ambitious, but you can do it, and
Thanks. Appreciate
you
that.
just
I love your January videos too. You're posting these ideas of you just jamming out. It's
yeah,
you've
it's
had
been
some good
fun.
ideas. Are you gonna finish
Thanks,
any of
man.
those songs? Like, have you hit something that you're like, this is cool. Like, I'm gonna get this done.
Yeah, like there are these baby ideas at this point, but there's like a sound I'm kind of chasing, and it's a very destroyed sound, as I've kind of said. Like,
Right on.
but I'm having fun with it. So, uh, not exactly sure what happens, but this is something I've been kind of dabbling in, and now the nice thing about when you're doing something every day is you can have a throwaway day and just be like, I'm just gonna try something real weird today.
Yeah.
And a lot of times neat ideas happen. Even if the thing you come up with isn't something you keep, like you figure stuff out in a cool way.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
because nothing's precious when you're doing it every day. It's like, all right, whatever, who cares?
No, exactly right, man. I mean, once you get in that creative mode, I don't know. I have days. Some days I'm like feeling super creative. I just want to go at it. And other days I have to force myself and like push through it. And then
I've
sometimes when I
had to force
do,
myself
yeah,
almost every day.
yeah, and that's a good practice. I mean, that's kind of the idea behind January, right? It's just forcing yourself to like get in it.
It just proves that you can't really wait for inspiration. You got to go get it. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, if you enjoy this on any level, it's like no once you get started, in no time something's going to happen that's going to get you excited.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
but you
Nope.
do have to make yourself do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And Il Gates said in the previous episode when I interviewed him, we talked about this a little bit, and one thing he says is like, comparison is the thief of joy. And I find when I listen on Spotify to a fully mixed and mastered track that somebody probably spent a long time on, and I start a project, or maybe I'm feeling down about myself, it's like, oh, I need to make some music like that or whatever. It's like, well, no, like there's already that out there in the world. We don't need another one of those. We need something original, something that's you, and that's, I think, something to keep in mind too for all producers, people making music. But
yeah, that's great. That's so true in so many aspects of life. That that comparison thing,
yeah, good stuff, man.
Give us your thing, We don't need your rehash,
Right. You are the only you that exists, or something. Isn't that like a Dr. Seuss book? It's like you're something like that.
I bet it is.
Probably. Yeah.
I bet he taps into that. Yeah.
Some good books, man. I used to binge Green Eggs and Ham. That was my book growing up. I was in it. It's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
Try new things. Don't judge it before you try it.
Right. Although, honestly, green eggs sound really disgusting. I probably would never try it, to be honest.
You didn't learn your lesson then.
Sounds honestly like sounds like it's like I got fungus on it or some mold. It sounds moldy. But.
And that's the exact point of the book.
Eat mold, kids.
Don't judge it. Yeah,
right. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Man, well, it's always good seeing your face. Like, I appreciate you taking all this time to hang out and dive into 11. There's a lot of good stuff. There's things, obviously, we didn't get to talk about here today, but, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there'll be more, I'm sure, that come up, too, so.
Yeah. I know that somebody's going to ask or message me and be like, when's 11 coming out, Dan? And I'm not allowed to say. I don't think we can. I
don't even know, so.
I actually don't know the date, but I have a really solid guess. So I don't think I'm allowed to say. But it's soon. It's soon.
Yeah.
It's going to be soon, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. Cool.
Well, yeah, man. So people should listen to your podcast, Live Producers Online.
And yours as well.
Podcast. And
thank you. The Ableton Music Producer Podcast. And then for you, Brian Funk on the Music Production Podcast. Yeah. I actually almost named mine the Ableton Music Production Podcast, but then I realized we'd be fighting for SEO. So I was like, nah, I'm just going to call it the Producer Podcast. Maybe that'll be a little more specific.
I couldn't believe I got that name, to be honest with you.
I'm impressed, man.
Podcast yet?
That's solid. That's solid.
That's nice because I don't have to explain what it's about.
So I appreciate you, man. It's always good seeing you. We'll probably do this again sometime down the road. Stoked for Ableton Live 11.
Day,
Yeah, when that's a thing, when the world opens up again, let's make that happen. I'll come down and visit. If you ever come near Indianapolis, I'll buy you a beer, whatever your preference is.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good hang.
Right on. Take
Have
it
fun
easy.
at band practice.
Thank you. I will. Good luck with January. I'll be following your jams.
Cool, man.
Right on. I'll see you later.